Have you ever wondered what would happen if the walls of a lighthouse could speak? What if they whispered dark secrets that no one should hear? Well, prepare yourself for a chilling journey through the sinister corridors of the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, where the line between sanity and madness becomes as nebulous as the stormy sea that surrounds it. Hello, dear viewers thirsting for mysteries. This is Raven Shadowmere, and welcome to another disturbing episode of Midnight Mysteries. Before we dive into the depths of this terrifying story, don't forget to leave that lights our path through the shadows, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. After all, you wouldn't want to miss any of the dark secrets we uncover, would you? In today's episode, we'll share a haunting tale that took place in the year 2021, involving Sarah Winters, the most recent guardian of the infamous Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. Oh, poor thing. She thought she was just taking on a solitary job in a picturesque location. Little did she know she was about to become the protagonist of a living nightmare. Get ready for a narrative that will make you question the very nature of reality. Missing boats, deranged guardians, whispers in the dark, and a secret so disturbing that it could forever change how you view lighthouses. But be careful, dear viewer. As we delve deeper into this story, you may find yourself drawn into the same abyss of madness that has consumed so many before us. Will you be able to maintain your sanity until the shocking conclusion? There's only one way to find out. And remember, there's a big secret waiting for you at the end of this story. A twist so unexpected that it will make you question everything you thought you knew about the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. So stick around until the end, if you have the courage. Now, let's embark on this disturbing journey. After all, the lighthouse is waiting, and its shadows are becoming impatient. The wind howled against the lighthouse windows when I arrived at Cape Hatteras. I remember thinking it was just another stormy day on the North Carolina coast. Little did I know that this howl was a warning, a desperate lament for me to turn back and never look back again. My name is Sarah Winters, and this is my story. A story I never thought I would tell because, frankly, I never believed I would live to tell it. When I took the job as the guardian of the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, I was excited. A solitary job, yes, but I had always been a lone wolf. Besides, what harm could there be in taking care of a historic lighthouse? It was just a building, right? Light, shadow, and history. Nothing more. On my first night, I climbed the 157 steps to the top. The creaking of the metal stairs echoed off the stone walls, creating a strange symphony that seemed to whisper my name. Sarah, Sarah. I shook my head, laughing at myself. It was just the wind, of course, just the wind. But then something caught my attention, a glimpse of movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned quickly, but there was nothing there, just shadows dancing on the walls, cast by the flickering light of the lamp. Days passed, and I gradually began to notice strange things. Objects I was sure I had left in one place appeared in another. Wet footprints on the floor when I knew I hadn't gone out. And those whispers, those damned whispers that seemed to come from within the walls. One night, while rummaging through a dusty old cupboard, I found a box hidden at the bottom. Inside were diaries, dozens of them. Belonging to previous guardians, my curiosity outweighed my fear, and I began to read them. What I discovered chilled me to the bone. Each diary told a similar story. It started with small, strange occurrences, escalated to inexplicable events, and ended, well, most of them just ended abruptly. Some spoke of madness, others of terrible visions, and all mentioned the whispers. It was then that I realized I was not the first to experience this, and from what the diaries indicated, I probably wouldn't be the last. I decided to investigate further. I began researching the history of the lighthouse, and what I found left me even more disturbed. Cape Hatteras was not only known for its beauty and historical significance, it was known as the graveyard of the Atlantic. Hundreds of ships had sunk in the treacherous waters surrounding the lighthouse over the centuries, more than would be normal, even for such a dangerous coast. And many of these wrecks occurred on clear nights when the lighthouse should have guided the ships away from danger. One particularly stormy night, as I struggled to keep the lighthouse light burning, I heard something I would never forget. Above the roar of the wind and sea, I heard screams, agonizing screams, as if hundreds of souls were being tortured. I ran to the window, hoping to see a ship in distress. But what I saw defied logic and sanity. In the churning sea, I saw faces, hundreds of them, twisted in agony, emerging from the waves only to be swallowed again, and all of them were looking at the lighthouse, at me. I recoiled in horror, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would explode. It was then that I heard a voice, not a whisper this time, but as clear as day. "Welcome to your new home, Sarah," said the voice. "You are one of us now." I turned slowly and saw a shadowy figure in the corner of the room, tall, thin, with eyes that shone like the light of the lighthouse. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The figure smiled, revealing sharp teeth like a shark's. "Don't fight it, Sarah," said the figure, its voice a mixture of hundreds of others. "The lighthouse needs to feed. It always has, and you are the next guardian, the next to join us." I ran like I had never run before. I stumbled down the stairs, the sound of hundreds of voices chasing me. I reached the door, but it wouldn't open. It was locked, trapped. I was trapped. I turned back to the stairs, hoping to see the figure pursuing me. But what I saw was even worse. The walls of the lighthouse were moving, undulating as if they were alive. And from within them, faces emerged. Faces of men and women, some ancient, others more recent, all with the same look of desperation and hunger in their eyes. It was then that I realized the terrible truth. The Cape Hatteras Lighthouse was not just a structure, it was a living entity, fed by the souls of shipwreck victims and the guardians who came before me. And now, it wanted to add me to its collection. As I write this, I am locked in the lighthouse room. The storm outside is deafening, but not as loud as the screams and whispers coming from the walls. I don't know how much longer I can stand this. I don't know if anyone will read this someday. But if you are reading, please stay away from Cape Hatteras. The lighthouse is not what it seems. It's a monster disguised as a savior, and it's always hungry. This may be my last night here. I can hear footsteps on the stairs. The doorknob is slowly turning, and the voice is calling my name again. "Sarah. It's time to join us, Sarah. Forever." The doorknob turned slowly, and I held my breath. My heart was pounding so hard, I was sure it could be heard throughout the lighthouse. But then, something unexpected happened. The door didn't open. Instead, I heard a strange sound, as if someone was scratching at the wood. Gathering all the courage I had left, I approached the door. The scratching continued, now accompanied by a low, sad meow. I opened the door impulsively, and to my surprise, a thin black cat darted into the room. Relief flooded my body, but it was quickly replaced by a new wave of dread. If the cat managed to get in, that meant the door wasn't actually locked. Could I have escaped this whole time? The cat jumped onto my bed and curled up, its yellow eyes fixed on me. There was something in its gaze, an intelligence that seemed almost human. Then I noticed the worn collar around its neck. Attached to it was a small nameplate. With trembling hands, I read the name engraved, "Whisper." A chill ran down my spine. Whisper, a whisper. Could it be a coincidence? Or did this cat have some connection to the whispers I had been hearing? I decided I couldn't just stand there. If the door wasn't locked, this might be my only chance to escape. I grabbed my backpack, stuffed the diaries inside, and in a sudden impulse, picked up Whisper in my arms. He didn't protest. He just snuggled against my chest as if he knew we were about to face something terrible together. I left the room quietly, my eyes scanning every shadow for movement. The walls seemed to pulse slightly, as if they were breathing, but there was no sign of the horrifying figures I had seen before. I descended the spiral staircase, each step echoing loudly in the oppressive silence of the lighthouse. Whisper remained still in my arms, his eyes alert, as if he were guarding our way. When we reached the bottom of the stairs, I heard something that made my blood run cold. Voices, dozens of them, coming from behind the door that led outside. They were singing, an ancient mournful melody that spoke of lost ships and damned souls. "What do we do now, Whisper?" I whispered to the cat, feeling a bit foolish for talking to an animal. To my surprise, he jumped from my arms and ran toward a small door I had never noticed before, hidden behind some old boxes. I followed him, moving the boxes as quietly as possible. The door creaked when I opened it, revealing a narrow, dark passage. I hesitated for a moment, but Whisper had already disappeared into the darkness. It was either this or face whatever was singing on the other side of the main door. I entered the passage, closing the door behind me. The air was damp and heavy, smelling of mold and salt water. I used my cell phone's flashlight to illuminate the way, following Whisper's glowing eyes ahead. The tunnel seemed to stretch indefinitely, going deeper and deeper. The walls were made of rough stone, covered in mold and strange markings that looked as if they had been carved centuries ago. After what felt like an eternity, the tunnel began to rise again. Finally, we reached another door. This one was made of rusted metal, with strange symbols engraved on its surface. Whisper meowed impatiently, scratching at the door. I took a deep breath and pushed it open. To my surprise, it swung open easily, revealing the beach. We stepped out into the cold night air. Then I noticed something strange. The lighthouse's light wasn't reflecting on the water. It was as if the sea were swallowing it, creating a black void where a bright reflection should be. Whisper meowed again, drawing my attention. He was sitting near the water, staring intensely at something. I followed his gaze and nearly fainted at what I saw. Bodies, dozens of them, floating just below the water's surface. Men, women, children. Some looked as if they had been there for centuries. Others appeared to have arrived recently, and all of them had their eyes open, staring directly at me. I recoiled in horror, but something kept me from looking away. That's when I saw a familiar face among the bodies. It was the face of the dark figure that had been chasing me in the lighthouse. His lips moved, forming words I couldn't hear, but somehow, I knew what he was saying. "You cannot escape, Sarah. The lighthouse always finds a way to bring its guardians back." At that moment, I felt something grab my ankle. I looked down and saw a bony hand emerging from the sand, its fingers closing around my leg. I screamed and struggled, managing to break free. I ran down the beach, Whisper by my side, the sound of hundreds of bodies dragging themselves from the water chasing us. I don't know how long or how far we ran. All I know is that when we finally stopped, exhausted and gasping, the lighthouse was nowhere to be seen. I collapsed on the sand, my body trembling uncontrollably. Whisper curled up beside me, his soft purring offering a strange comfort. As I caught my breath, a terrible realization hit me. I might have escaped the lighthouse, but had I truly escaped its influence? The dark figure's words echoed in my mind. The lighthouse always finds a way to bring its guardians back. I looked at Whisper, his yellow eyes staring at me with ancient wisdom. "What happens now?" I asked, more to myself than to the cat. In response, Whisper got up and began to walk along the beach. After a few steps, he paused and looked back, as if calling me to follow him. I stood up on shaky legs. I didn't know where Whisper was leading me, but I had the strange feeling he knew more about what was happening than I did. As we walked along the deserted beach, the moon cast our shadows in the sand. For a moment, I had the impression that my shadow wasn't my own. but the silhouette of a tall, thin figure wearing a sailor's hat. I shook my head, trying to push the image away. I was tired, scared, and probably delirious. But part of me knew that what I had experienced at the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse was real, and somehow, my story with that place was not over yet. As the sky began to lighten on the horizon, heralding dawn, I couldn't help but wonder, would I ever truly escape the shadow of the lighthouse? Or was I, like all the other guardians before me, doomed to return, becoming part of its dark history? Only time would tell. For now, all I could do was follow Whisper, and hope that somehow he would guide me away from this nightmare. But deep down in my heart, I knew the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse would not let me go so easily. And so, with the sound of waves crashing on the beach, and the occasional meow from Whisper, my only company, I continued my journey. A journey that began with an apparently innocent job, and transformed into a struggle for my very soul.
If you ever hear this story, remember, not all lighthouses are safe guides, waiting patiently to ensnare unsuspecting souls in their deceptive light.
And the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, well, it is the most treacherous of them all. We walked for hours, Whisper and I, along the endless coast. The sun was already high in the sky when we spotted a small coastal town in the distance. My heart filled with hope, civilization, people, safety. But as we drew closer, I realized something was wrong. The streets were deserted, the windows of the houses empty and dark. It was as if the entire town had been abandoned for years. Whisper led me to a small library in the town center. The doors creaked open ominously, revealing dusty shelves and moldy books. In the center of the room stood a table with a single open book. I approached cautiously, my heart racing as I read the title on the cover: The Untold History of America's Lighthouses. The book was open to a chapter about Cape Hatteras. With trembling hands, I began to read. What I discovered chilled me to the bone. The Cape Hatteras Lighthouse was not unique. There were others scattered along the coast, each with its own tale of horror and mystery. They all seemed to be connected in some way, part of an ancient and sinister network that extended far beyond human understanding. And at the center of it all was the lighthouse I had left behind. As I read, I heard a noise coming from outside. I rushed to the window, and my heart nearly stopped. Outside, in the previously empty streets, there were people, dozens of them, but they were not ordinary people. Their skin was pale and almost translucent. Their eyes shone with a supernatural light, and they were all staring directly at me. Whisper jumped into my lap, meowing urgently. I understood the message. It was time to go. I grabbed the book and ran to the back of the library, desperately searching for an exit. I found a door that led to a dark basement.
We rushed down the stairs, the sound of shuffling footsteps following closely behind us.
At the bottom of the basement, there was another door, locked with a rusty padlock. In a moment of desperation, I used the heavy book to smash the padlock. The door swung open, revealing another tunnel, similar to the one we had used to escape the lighthouse. Without hesitation, we plunged into the darkness. The tunnel seemed to stretch indefinitely, taking us deeper beneath the earth. After what felt like an eternity, we emerged in a seaside cave, and there, illuminated by the moonlight streaming through the cave's opening, was an old boat, still seaworthy. I looked at Whisper, who gazed at me with his wise eyes. Somehow, I knew he had guided me here for a reason. "Where do we go now?" I asked, more to myself than to the cat. In response, Whisper jumped into the boat and sat at the prow, his eyes fixed on the horizon. I understood the message. Our journey was not over. In fact, it was just beginning. With one last look at the coast we were leaving behind, I launched the boat into the sea. As the waves carried us away, I couldn't help but think about what I had discovered. The Cape Hatteras Lighthouse was just a piece of a much larger and more sinister puzzle. And now, with Whisper as my enigmatic guide and the mysterious book as my map, I was about to dive even deeper into this mystery. What awaited us beyond the horizon? Other lighthouses? More secrets? Or perhaps, finally, some answers? Only time would tell. But one thing I was certain of, my life would never be the same. And as the sun set on the horizon, painting the sky a blood-red hue, I prepared to face whatever destiny had in store for me. For now, I knew the truth. Lighthouses were not merely structures. They were sentinels of an unseen world, guardians of ancient and terrible secrets, and I, Sarah Winters, former guardian of the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, was about to become a central piece in this cosmic game of light and shadows. And so, dear viewers, ends the disturbing account of Sarah Winters. But does it truly end? Or is this merely the tip of the iceberg of a much larger mystery? The Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, with its bloody history and dark secrets, stands tall to this day. Its light still spins, night after night, supposedly guiding ships to safety. But now, we know the truth behind this facade. How many other lighthouses around the world guard similar secrets? How many souls have been lost, not to treacherous waters, but to the very structures meant to protect them? And what happened to Sarah? Her fate remains a mystery. Some say she is still out there, sailing from lighthouse to lighthouse, unraveling the secrets of these silent guardians. Others believe she has finally succumbed to the curse, becoming yet another soul captured by the deceptive light. As for Whisper, the mysterious cat, well, perhaps he is more than he appears. A guide, a guardian, or something much older and more powerful. One thing is certain. The next time you see a lighthouse in the distance, think twice before approaching. For not every light in the darkness is a sign of salvation. Sometimes, the true darkness hides behind the brightest glow. And always remember, in Cape Hatteras, and perhaps in many other places, lighthouses are not there to save us from the shadows. They are there to lure us into them. Well, my dear nighttime viewers, we have reached the end of yet another chilling episode of Midnight Mysteries. But before we say goodbye, allow me to share with you a little epilogue. You know, there is something fascinating about lighthouses, isn't there? These solitary sentinels, rising against the fury of the elements, are supposedly guiding sailors to safety. But what if I told you that ever since I shared the story of Sarah Winters, I've been receiving, let's say, interesting correspondence, anonymous letters, encrypted emails, even a message in a bottle. Yes, you heard that right. All telling similar tales. Lighthouses in different parts of the world, each with its own dark secret, each one with its own insatiable hunger. And the most intriguing part, accounts of a mysterious black cat appearing at the most critical moments, always guiding, always observing, always one step ahead. Coincidence? Perhaps. Or maybe we are just scratching the surface of a much larger mystery. A mystery that spans the globe, connecting distant lighthouses in a web of darkness and secrets. So, the next time you're driving along a remote coastline and spot a solitary lighthouse in the distance, ask yourself, is that light really there to guide or to lure? And if you hear a soft meow in the darkness, well, maybe it's best to follow it. After all, not all guides come in the forms we expect. Remember, dear listeners, sometimes true darkness hides in the brightest light, and not all lighthouses are what they seem. And with that disturbing thought, we come to the end of another episode of Midnight Mysteries. I hope you enjoyed this dark journey through the secrets of Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. If this video sent chills down your spine, don't forget to hit that like button that lights our way through the shadows. And if you're not yet part of our community of seekers of the obscure, now is the perfect time to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. After all, you don't want to miss any of the secrets we unearth, do you? Share this video with your friends. Who knows? Maybe one of them has their own lighthouse story to tell. And remember, the more we share, the stronger we are against the shadows that lurk. You are true guardians of the darkness, brave enough to face the unknown head-on. That's why we continue to bring these stories to light. In the next episode, we'll dive into another mystery that challenges human understanding. Will we be ready for the revelations that await us? There's only one way to find out. Until then, keep your eyes open and your minds alert, because in a world of shadows and secrets, curiosity can be both a blessing and a curse. I'm Raven Shadowmere, and this was Midnight Mysteries. Beware of the lights that shine in the darkness. Not all of them are there to guide you home. Good night, and may your dreams be less disturbing than the stories we tell here. The waves crashed furiously against the rocks, and the full moon illuminated the landscape with an ethereal light. I looked back and saw the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse towering against the night sky, its light rotating regularly, as if nothing was wrong.